Once upon a time, in a beautiful African village, there lived someone named Kofi. Kofi was a young boy from the small village. His family didn't have much. Sometimes they found it hard to eat even once a day. But Kofi had a big dream. He wanted to become a doctor so he could help his family and make them proud. Kofi's parents were very poor, but they loved him so much. When he turned 18, they decided to send him to the big city. They didn't have much money, but they saved everything they could. His father said, "Kofi, you must study hard. We know you will make us proud." His mother hugged him tightly. "You are our hope." Kofi left for the big city. He was sad to leave his family, but he knew it was the only way to make their lives better. He promised himself, "I will work hard and I will come back as a doctor." His family believed in him, and so did Kofi. This was the start of Kofi's journey to becoming a doctor, and he knew deep down that one day he would change his family's life forever. When Kofi got to the university, everything felt strange. The town was so big, and the people were different from those in his village. He was the only student from the village in his class. But Kofi didn't let that bother him. He was there for one reason: to become a doctor. Every day, Kofi would wake up early, go to his classes, and sit quietly at the front. He listened carefully to the teachers and took notes. When his classmates went out to have fun or relax, Kofi stayed in his small room, studying. He wanted to be the best because he remembered the hope his parents had in him. Even though Kofi's parents sent him food, yam, rice, beans, and oil, it wasn't always enough. Sometimes before the next package arrived, Kofi would have finished everything. But Kofi never complained. He ate what he had and kept going. He knew his parents were doing their best for him. Kofi's hard work paid off. He became the top student in all his classes. His teachers were amazed at how well he did, and his classmates couldn't believe how smart he was. But for Kofi, it wasn't about being the best in school. It was about making his parents proud and giving them a better life. And so, every day, Kofi stayed focused on his dream. After many years of hard work, Kofi finally graduated from the university. But he didn't just graduate. He became the best student in the history of the school. Everyone was talking about him. His name was in the news, and people were amazed by his success. When Kofi returned to his village, it was a big celebration. The villagers were so proud of him. Drums were beating, people were dancing, and Kofi's parents were smiling from ear to ear. "Our son has done it," they said. "He's going to change our lives." People in the village gathered around Kofi, calling him a hero. "Kofi has made it. He will bring great things to our village." They cheered. His parents were the happiest. They knew all their sacrifices had been worth it. Kofi was proud too, but he knew his journey wasn't over. He had the degree, but now he needed a job. So after spending a little time in the village, he went back to the city, ready to find a job and turn his dream into reality. His parents and the whole village believed that Kofi would soon change their lives for the better. When Kofi returned to the city, it didn't take long for him to find a job. With his impressive degree and reputation as the best student, he was hired as a doctor in one of the biggest hospitals in town. This was Kofi's dream come true. Now that Kofi had a good job, he started sending money back to his parents in the village. With the money, they were able to eat well and live comfortably. Kofi even built them a brand new house. The villagers couldn't believe it. Kofi, the poor boy from the village, had become a great doctor and had changed his family's life. Everyone celebrated his success and talked about him with pride. "Kofi is a true example," the villagers said. "He worked hard and now look at him. He's a doctor and he's helping his family. Parents would tell their children, "You see, Kofi, that's who you should be like. Work hard like him." After many years, while Kofi's career was going well, something else happened. He met a beautiful girl from the city named Sonia. Sonia was charming and stylish, and Kofi quickly fell in love with her. They got married, and soon Sonia became the talk of the town. She loved to boast about Kofi's success to her friends. "My husband is the best doctor. He built a new house for his parents and takes care of me like a queen," she would say. Kofi's life seemed perfect. He had a good job, a happy family, and a wife who adored him. But little did he know, things were about to change. Sonia loved her new life with Kofi. She enjoyed the fancy things, nice clothes, parties, and showing off to her friends. Her friends were just like her, always boasting about their lives. Sonia often bragged, "Kofi buys me anything I want. I live like a queen." But soon, Sonia started to feel bored. Kofi worked long hours at the hospital, sometimes even staying overnight because of emergencies. He hardly had time to be at home, and Sonia didn't like that. She wanted more attention, more fun. So, she complained to her friend Amanda. Amanda, who loved giving advice, said, "Sonia, you should make Kofi notice you. When he comes home late, don't cook for him. Lock him out if you have to, and make sure he doesn't listen to his parents. You are his wife now." Sonia thought about Amanda's advice and decided to follow it. The next time Kofi came home late from the hospital, Sonia didn't cook any food. When he asked why, she said, "Go eat at your hospital since you love your work so much." Kofi tried to explain how hard his job was, but Sonia wouldn't listen. As time went on, Sonia's behavior got worse. She locked Kofi out when he came home late, refused to talk to him, and even convinced him to stop speaking to his parents. "You don't need them, you have me," she would say. Kofi was confused and sad. He loved Sonia, but he also loved his parents. But with Sonia's constant coldness, Kofi found himself slowly drifting away from his family. The happy life he once had was beginning to fall apart, and Kofi didn't know how to fix it. One evening, Kofi decided to take a day off from the hospital to spend time with Sonia. He wanted to make her happy and show her that he cared. They had dinner together, talked, and laughed like they hadn't in a long time. It seemed like things were finally getting better. But just when they were about to settle down for the night, Kofi's phone rang. It was the hospital. There was an emergency, and they needed Kofi to come in right away. Kofi stood up ready to go, but Sonia stopped him. "Are you serious, Kofi? You're leaving me again for work?" Sonia said angrily. Kofi tried to explain. "It's an emergency, Sonia. I have to go. I'm a doctor." But Sonia had had enough. "No, Kofi, you always leave me for your job. You need to choose. Either you stay with me tonight or you go and never come back. I'm tired of this. It's either me or your job. If you leave, I will leave too," she shouted. Kofi was torn. He didn't want to lose his marriage, but he also knew his job was important. He stood there, confused and unsure. Finally, with a heavy heart, Kofi decided to stay with Sonia, hoping it would save their marriage. The next morning, Kofi returned to the hospital, only to hear terrible news. The patient he was supposed to attend to had died. Kofi felt a deep sadness and guilt. Later that day, his boss called him into the office. "We cannot have a doctor who abandons his duties," they said. And with that, Kofi was fired. Kofi left the hospital, feeling lost and broken. He had made a big decision, but now it felt like he had lost everything: his job, his purpose, and soon, maybe even his marriage. After losing his job, Kofi tried everything to find work at another hospital. He went from one hospital to the next, carrying his impressive degree and hoping someone would give him a chance. But everywhere he went, they already knew why he was fired. They said, "We can't hire a doctor who didn't show up when it mattered most." One by one, Kofi's job applications were rejected. As the months passed, Kofi became more and more desperate. He didn't want his parents to know about his struggles. They still believed their son was a successful doctor. So Kofi borrowed money from friends just to send to his parents, keeping up the lie that everything was fine. "I can't let them worry," he thought. "I'll figure something out soon." At home, things were even harder. Sonia became pregnant, but instead of celebrating, Kofi's heart was filled with worry. "How will we take care of a baby when I can't even find a job?" he thought. Sonia, who had always loved the good life, started complaining about how little they had. She no longer bragged to her friends about Kofi, and her attitude only made Kofi feel worse. Every day, Kofi felt the weight of his struggles. No job, no money, and a baby on the way. He didn't know how long he could keep pretending everything was okay. And with Sonia's growing frustration, the pressure was building fast. Life had become a constant battle, and Kofi felt like he was losing. One day while Kofi was walking through town, he ran into an old friend, Namadi. Like Kofi, Namadi had lost his job a few years ago. But unlike Kofi, Namadi looked rich. He wore expensive clothes, drove a shiny car, and seemed to have everything. Kofi was surprised. "Namadi, how did you get so rich after losing your job?" he asked. Namadi smiled and said, "Kofi, there's something I need to tell you, but you must keep it a secret." Kofi listened closely as Namadi explained. "I'm in the organ harvesting business. We take organs from people and sell them for a lot of money. It's risky, but there's more money in it than you can imagine." Kofi was horrified. "Namadi, that's illegal. How can you do such a thing?" he asked, shocked. Namadi shrugged. "Kofi, I needed money. Now look at me. I have everything I want. You're struggling, but this could change your life. Think about it," he said, leaving Kofi with the offer. Kofi couldn't stop thinking about what Namadi had said. He knew it was wrong, but he was desperate. That night he told Sonia about it. To Kofi's surprise, Sonia didn't care about right or wrong. All she cared about was money. "Kofi, take the job," she said. "Think of how rich we'll be. We'll have everything again." She pushed and pushed until Kofi finally gave in. He couldn't take the pressure anymore. Maybe this is the only way, Kofi thought. Kofi felt sick inside. He knew it was wrong, but Sonia's words kept echoing in his mind. "Do it, Kofi. We'll have everything again." He went back to Namadi and said, "I'll do it." And so, Kofi joined the dangerous world of organ harvesting, knowing deep down that he was stepping onto a path that would change his life forever. Kofi began his work with Namadi, performing surgeries on unsuspecting patients. These patients believed they were being treated for their illnesses, but during the surgeries, Kofi would secretly remove their organs. Namadi had connections to people who bought these organs for huge amounts of money. It was a horrible thing, but the money came fast, and Kofi couldn't turn away from it. Within just a week, Kofi had more money than he had ever seen in his life. He was suddenly rich again. He sent large amounts of money back home to his parents, telling them, "I got a big promotion at the hospital. Things are going well." His parents were proud, thinking Kofi was doing even better than before. They had no idea what he was really doing. Sonia was overjoyed. With the money pouring in, she went back to her old ways, buying expensive clothes, throwing parties, and showing off to her friends. "Look at me now," she bragged. "My husband is even richer than before." Sonia didn't care where the money came from, as long as it kept flowing. But deep inside, Kofi was filled with guilt. Every time he operated on a patient, he felt a heavy weight in his chest. He knew what he was doing was wrong, but the money and the life it gave him were too tempting to walk away from. So, Kofi kept lying to himself, to his parents, and to everyone around him, pretending everything was fine while hiding the darkness of his new path. The money kept coming, and Kofi's life looked perfect from the outside. But inside, Kofi knew that he was losing himself to the greed and guilt that haunted him every day. As Kofi grew richer, he decided to open his own secret clinic. On the outside, it looked like a normal health center where people came for checkups and treatments. But behind closed doors, in a hidden room, Kofi carried out his organ harvesting business. Everything seemed to be going well, and Kofi was more powerful than ever. One day, while Kofi was away on a trip, Sonia went into labor with their second child. She was taken to Kofi's clinic, and his nurses helped her deliver a healthy baby. After the birth, the nurses, following the usual routine, took the newborn to the secret room where other babies were kept before surgeries. But they didn't know this baby was Kofi's own child. When Kofi returned from his trip, he went straight to the secret room to begin his work. He was tired and distracted, thinking about the money he would make from the next sale. Without realizing it, he took one of the babies from the room and performed the usual surgery, removing organs as he always did. It wasn't until later, when the nurses came to return the babies to their mothers, that they realized something terrible had happened. One of the babies was missing. After checking and rechecking, the nurses discovered the truth. Kofi had accidentally taken the life of his own newborn baby. When Kofi found out, he was devastated. The guilt that had been building up inside him for so long came crashing down. He had crossed a line he never imagined, and now the cost was his own child's life. The nurses were horrified, and the news quickly spread through the clinic. Kofi was broken, realizing that in his greed, he had destroyed not just other families, but his own as well. When Sonia heard the news that their newborn baby had died at Kofi's hands, she was filled with rage. She couldn't believe it, even though she had pushed Kofi into this dark life of organ harvesting. In that moment, all she could see was the loss of her child. The guilt, the anger, and the grief consumed her. "You killed our baby," Sonia screamed at Kofi. "How could you?" Kofi, already broken from the realization of what he had done, tried to explain. I didn't mean to." But Sonia wasn't listening. She was too angry, too heartbroken. In her fury, Sonia decided that she couldn't keep the secret any longer. Without thinking of the consequences, she stormed out of the house and went straight to the hospital where Kofi had worked. She shouted for everyone to hear, "Kofi has been harvesting organs. He's a monster. He even killed our own child." The hospital staff and patients were shocked. People whispered in disbelief, while others were horrified. How could he do such a thing, they asked. The truth about Kofi's secret clinic began to unravel quickly, and the once respected doctor was now seen as a criminal. Before Kofi could make a plan to escape, the police were called. They arrived at the hospital, surrounding Kofi. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He was too crushed by everything that had happened. The police put him in handcuffs and took him away. leaving behind the chaos and brokenness that had consumed his life. As Kofi was led away, Sonia, still in her grief, packed her things and disappeared with their first child. She fled the city, not wanting to face the consequences of her own involvement in Kofi's dark deeds. No one knew where she went, and Kofi was left to face the consequences of his actions alone. Kofi was taken to court, and after a long trial, he was sentenced to life in prison. The news of his crime spread like wildfire. Once a celebrated doctor and the pride of his village, Kofi was now seen as a disgrace. He had fallen so far from the bright, young boy with big dreams, all because of the dark path he had chosen in his desperate quest for wealth. Back in the village, Kofi's parents were heartbroken when they heard what had happened. They had always believed their son was doing great things in the city. They had been so proud of him, bragging to everyone about his success. But now, the truth was out, and their hearts were filled with sorrow and shame. "How could our son do this?" they asked, unable to understand how Kofi had changed so much. The villagers who had once celebrated Kofi as a hero were shocked. "We never thought this would happen," they whispered. The village, once filled with pride for Kofi, now felt the weight of disappointment. As for Sonia, she had fled the city with their first child, disappearing without a trace. No one knew where she went, and she was never seen again. Kofi, sitting alone in his prison cell, had lost everything: his career, his family, and his freedom. All that was left for him now was the heavy regret of the choices he had made. Kofi's journey, which had begun with so much hope and promise, had ended in tragedy. He had been given a chance to change his family's story, but in his desire for wealth, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. Now, all Kofi could do was think about the wrong path he had taken, knowing it was too late to change anything. And so, the once proud village hero became a man who had lost everything, all because he had let greed and desperation lead him down a dark road. Moral of the story: greed and bad choices can destroy even the brightest dreams. Kofi started with good intentions, wanting to help his family, but the pressure to maintain wealth, especially from his wife Sonia, who pushed him into the illegal business, led him down a dark path. Sonia's influence fueled Kofi's downfall, showing how selfishness and the desire for luxury can lead to tragic consequences. In the end, their pursuit of wealth brought only shame, heartbreak, and loss. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.